The rain came down in sheets that night, heavy enough to blur the city lights into streaks of silver and gold. I remember thinking how strange it was that something could look so beautiful and feel so cold at the same time. My name is Evan Reyes, an Omega, trying to survive in a city that still whispers the word like it's a flaw. And that night, I was standing outside the penthouse of the man I thought I'd spend my life with, Lance Corbin, Alpha, Vice President of Corbin Dynamics, smart, charming, unstoppable, and the reason I'd stopped believing in loneliness. At least until 2 weeks ago, when a small white stick changed everything. 2 lines. Positive. A heartbeat that wasn't just mine anymore. I'd imagined joy, maybe surprise. Instead, the moment I told him, silence filled the room like smoke. He didn't look happy. He looked cornered. "That's not possible," he said, eyes fixed on his reflection in the glass. "You were on suppressants." "We stopped them," I whispered. "You said you wanted—" He turned, voice sharp as broken glass. "Evan, I said a lot of things. You need to take care of it. Quietly." Those words hit harder than the rain against the windows. Take care of it. Quietly. Like our child was a problem to be erased. I stared at him, trying to find the man who used to hold me through my heats, who whispered plans about names and nurseries. But that man wasn't here. Only the polished alpha who cared about investors, quarterly reports, and his father's approval. "If the board finds out I got an Omega pregnant, it'll destroy everything I've built." He slipped his phone into his pocket like the conversation bored him. "You'll be compensated. Just don't make this messy." "Messy?" My voice cracked. "Lance, this is our baby." His eyes stayed cold. "No, Evan. It's your problem." He walked out, leaving me with the echo of his shoes and the steady hum of the rain. By midnight, I was outside, suitcase in one hand, the positive test still in my coat pocket. The doorman who used to greet me avoided my eyes. My credit card declined at the nearest hotel. My account emptied. He'd cut me off completely. I wandered for hours until the streets blurred. The rain turned colder, my body shook. Somewhere between one heartbeat and the next, my knees gave out. I remember the taste of metal in my mouth, the glow of a distant car light, and then nothing. Rain. That's what I remember first, the sound of it hitting pavement, a slow rhythm that blurred into my heartbeat. I opened my eyes to a blur of city lights and the shadow of a man kneeling beside me. "Hey," he said, voice low but clear through the rain. "Stay with me, okay?" Strong hands lifted me effortlessly. I caught the faint scent of cedar and clean steel, an alpha, but not the kind that made my instincts shrink. This one felt steady. When I woke again, the world was warm. White walls, steady beeping, the smell of antiseptic. A hospital. Private room. Too expensive for someone whose bank account now reads 0. The door opened. The man from the rain stepped in. Coat dry now, expression unreadable. "You're awake. Good. I'm Lucian Hale." I tried to sit up, but my body protested. Why am I here?" "You collapsed on 5th and Morrow. I was driving by." He set a cup of water beside me. "You're lucky I stopped. You were half conscious and hypothermic." My throat tightened. "How much is this costing?" Lucian's mouth curved, not quite a smile. "Don't worry about that. I own the hospital wing." That explained the tailored suit, the quiet authority. Then his gaze shifted to the file at the foot of my bed, the one labeled Omegaverse Medical Intake. Pregnancy confirmed. You're expecting. And judging by the name on your emergency contact, Lance Corbin. I froze. You know him? Lucian's eyes darkened. Let's say we've met. He's made a career out of trying to bury my company. He leaned back, voice even. Tell me, did he do this to you? The question cracked something in me. The whole story spilled out, how Lance had thrown me out, cut me off, left me with rain and regret. Lucian listened without interrupting once. No pity, no judgment, just quiet fury under control. When he finished, he exhaled slowly. Then he's even worse than I thought. He stood, hands in pockets. You can't go back to him, and you can't survive alone right now. So here's what's going to happen. You'll stay here until the doctors clear you. After that, you'll come with me. I blinked. Why would you? Because I don't like seeing Omegas destroyed by men who think power means ownership, and because helping you might just ruin Lance Corbin's week. I should have been suspicious. I should have said no. But when he turned to leave, his voice softened just enough to sound human again. Rest, Evan. You're safe here. For the first time in days, I believed someone. 2 days passed before I was strong enough to leave the bed. The nurses said the alpha who brought me in had been covering every expense without question. When Lucien walked back into the room, I was sitting by the window, watching the city wake up beneath the veil of morning fog. "You look better," he said. "You shouldn't have paid for all this," I murmured. "Consider it a loan, or an investment in something worthwhile." He set a thin folder on the table between us. Inside were papers, contracts, legal terms, numbers I didn't understand. "What is this?" "An agreement. If you sign it, you and your child will be under my protection. I cover your medical care, housing, security, and expenses. In return, you allow me to publicly claim the baby as mine." I stared at him. "You want to pretend to be the father?" "Not pretend," Lucien said quietly. "In the eyes of the world, I will be. It keeps you safe, and it keeps him powerless." I should have been angry, but all I felt was tired. Why help me at all? He was silent for a moment. Then, 5 years ago, my younger brother was an Omega. He worked for one of Lance's subsidiaries. When he got pregnant, they forced him out. He didn't make it. The words hung between us, heavy and true. I couldn't save him, so now I build rules that protect others like him. This isn't charity, Evan. It's correction. I flipped through the papers again. Everything was there in black and white. Monthly stipend, medical autonomy, the right to leave whenever I wanted. "I want my own lawyer to read it." "I expected that," he nodded. "I'll pay for one you choose." His efficiency was disarming, but there was something gentle beneath it. Grief, maybe, or guilt. When he turned to leave, I heard myself say, "I don't want pity." He paused at the door. "Good. I don't offer it." That night, I barely slept. By morning, I knew my answer. When Lucien returned with coffee and that same measured calm, I met his eyes. "I'll sign, but only if you add one clause. I finish my degree. I don't want to be a story that ends in rescue." For the first time,
He actually smiled. Then let's make it a story that ends in choice.
Lucian's penthouse wasn't what I expected. No chandeliers, no marble floors, just wide glass windows and quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty. He showed me a guest room with soft gray walls and a view of the river. You can change anything, he said. This is your space, too. At first, I didn't believe him. I kept waiting for the rules. But the rules never came. Lucian worked most of the day, holding calls in a voice that turned steel when he spoke to his board. Yet he always found a moment to check on me. His care was practical, not performative. It was unnerving how much I started to rely on it. Weeks passed. My body changed. The baby's heartbeat grew stronger, steady as a drum in the monitor. Sometimes Lucian would stand beside me during appointments, listening like it was music. One evening, as we waited in the car outside the hospital, I asked quietly, "Do you ever stop planning everything?" He looked out at the lights. "Not anymore. Planning keeps people alive." "Your brother?" I asked. He nodded. He thought the system would protect him. I thought power would. We were both wrong. The admission broke something in his voice. Later that night, I found him on the balcony, coat thrown over his shoulders, city spread beneath us like a constellation. "You don't have to keep fixing the world," I said. "Someone has to try," he answered. I took a breath. "You already did more than anyone else ever has for me. That's enough." For a long time, he didn't speak. Then, quietly, "You're the first person who's told me that." In the months that followed, the tension between us changed. He would bring me decaf coffee and talk about absurd office politics. I would tell him about design school, about the way colors can change moods. And somewhere between those small exchanges, the distance began to fade. As the days turned into months, the idea of home started to mean something again. But peace has a way of drawing storms to it, and ours was already on the horizon. The first sign of trouble came with a single message on Lucian's phone. From Lance Corbin. Subject: "You have something that belongs to me." Lucian didn't show it to me at first, but I saw the tension in his jaw, the way his shoulders stiffened when he read it. 2 days later, reporters started calling. Someone had leaked photos, me leaving the hospital, Lucian helping me into his car. Lance wanted a scandal. "He's trying to frame this as manipulation," Lucian said, pacing the living room. "He'll drag your name through every headline if he can." I felt the baby kick, sharp and insistent, a reminder of what mattered. "I'm not running again," I said quietly. Lucian stopped. "Then we end it properly." He went public the next morning, a statement released through every major network. "Evan Reyes and his unborn child are under my protection. Any attempt to harm or defame them will be treated as corporate harassment and prosecuted accordingly." The backlash was immediate, but so was the support. Omega rights groups rallied. Shareholders turned on Lance. Within a week, Corbin Dynamics was under investigation for discrimination. When Lance finally showed up at our door, he wasn't the polished alpha I remembered. Rain dripped from his hair, poetic in a way, that it was raining again. "You think you can take everything from me?" he hissed,
You gave it away, Lucien replied evenly. I stood between them, heart pounding. You left me, Lance. You left us. Don't come here pretending there's something left to claim. His eyes darted to my stomach. That's my child. No, I said. He's ours. Mine and the man who didn't walk away. Lucien didn't need to raise his voice. If you care about your future, walk out that door and never look back.
Lance did, and somehow, when the door clicked shut, I felt lighter than I had in months. The baby came early. A small, perfect heartbeat that changed everything. Lucien was there the whole time, quiet, steady. When they placed my son in my arms, he opened his eyes and looked straight at me. I didn't see fear anymore. I saw life beginning again. Lucien stood by the window, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. You don't owe me anything, he said softly. I know, but maybe I want to stay anyway. He turned then, and for once the armor dropped completely. Stay then, he said. Not because you have to, because it's home. Months passed. The world moved on. Lance's company crumbled. Lucien and I didn't talk about revenge anymore, only about schedules, doctor's visits, and tiny socks that never seemed to stay on. Sometimes late at night, when the apartment was quiet and the baby finally asleep, I'd think back to that first night in the rain, how everything had fallen apart just so something better could be built. Do you ever regret stopping that car? I asked him once. Only that I didn't get there sooner, he said. I smiled, tracing small circles on our son's back. Then maybe it was the right time after all. Outside, the city kept raining. Soft, endless, alive. And for the first time, the sound didn't feel lonely. It sounded like peace.